Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Yeoh Chen Chow. Okay, CC. I'm very excited because CC is a very legendary figure in our industry, especially in the tech startup. You are a prominent figure among our Malaysia business ecosystem. Today, we're going to speak more on the topic on marketing and customer acquisition. So we would like you to briefly share about your journey and what you have done, what you do and currently doing today.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I think thanks a lot, Kenneth, for inviting me and Arthur for hosting me here. Sorry that I'm on a shorts and slippers. Like, I had a bad fall last night at badminton. Lesson learned, shouldn't play badminton, keep on pickleball. Yeah, so I damaged the ligament between tibia and fibula. Yeah, some technical term which I just came from physio to here. So so I think for myself, I came from a small town, Penang, Nimong Tebal, built my journey through, started in consulting, Accenture, did Job Street as a product, and then went to Groupon, joined Joel to build Groupon in Southeast Asia and then eventually Asia Pacific. 2015, built our own startup, KFit. I know KFit and me doesn't jive that well, but we built KFit. And then we got a chance to buy Groupon Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, turned to Fave, and then built through. COVID came, we crashed, we lost. While the figure I think what Kenneth just brought up, we sold for $45 million US. But the reality is that we raised more than $40 million US, and we did a bunch of share swap with Groupon. So the top line figure looks good, but in reality it's pretty much nothing. And Pine Labs, yes, they have gone IPO, but it's almost 50% down now as well at IPO. So but having said that, it's good that they eventually went on and list and built through. Since IPO 2 months, their share price has been almost okay, almost I think about 5-10% higher than IPO price. So I think the team, they did their best to basically went through. So they list at $2.9 billion US for Pine Labs. So the 2.9 post money, 2.7 pre money. Their last valuation was $5 billion. So depending on how you look at it, they process about $150 billion US a year worth of transactions. So 2024 decided, okay, build my own advisory, 1% advisory and coaching. It's a simple, no frill, single business model, number of minutes spent. So how many minutes anyone that need the advice, Q&A and whatnot. No proposal, no document, no slides, no spreadsheet, no nothing. It's only talking. That's the only thing I do. Anything that other than that will not be. There's no project, there's no retainer, there's no anything. Clients can end any minute. So I decided to create a very simple like AirAsia model. And I think as you all build your business, I think in the end is, how do you simplify it to a simple one way? Like let's say for me, for my 1% advisory, that's the only way to work with me. If that way doesn't work, I don't work with them, full stop. So it's because a lot of times are spent on negotiation. As you build a business, a lot of time you go in, try to find a way, in the end, it's like you end up wasted a lot of time. So for me, there's no negotiation, there's no discussion, this is how it is. If it works, we work. If it doesn't work. So I think you want to nail down whichever model. Doesn't mean this model is right. But I think you nail a model. Like my friend Anisha, she does one people team. Her model is she do one free session. After that, the next one is 6-month engagement. So she doesn't do any other way. You cannot do 1 month, you cannot do 5 years or so, it's 6 months. And she work it in that way. So I think in the end, is find your model, whichever it is, but tied to it. And then, especially you do marketing and branding, everything, in the end, people know this is so easy, no-brainer, this is how to sign up, this is how to go on, this is what it is. If it fit, doesn't fit, somewhere else, right? And I think in the end is, especially as we build as a sole prop, MS, micro, small, media enterprise, in the end, the market is, you only need that excitement. So then you build through. Of course, as a large scale, you have different teams, you can have different people focus on a different model, different team within a larger scheme. But when you're a smaller team, then keep it simple. I think that's sort of where it is. So this is until 2024 as I built this. And then last year I went on, decided to say, okay, why don't I go into board directors? So last year, now I'm sitting in 3 boards officially. One more that pending appointment in the next 3-4 weeks. So one is Foodie, which I think Kenneth mentioned as well. So that one went listing in November 23. I think Pinyang and his gang built it up through. I came in April last year to holding the torch together and then run through the IPO journey. Now being a listed company is a different game, different play, different learning curve. to see how we built through. And then the second one is Audience Analytics. They are known for a Golden Bull Award. Not sure you all heard of. Or the last weekend they did a Job Street Career Fair. So those are all part of Audience Analytics. They're a Singapore listed company. So that one, they are already listed when I joined them, so I went in. So this year I will have one more listing aiming at middle of this year for IT company, and end of this year, assuming that the appointment will go on as per schedule, then will be end of this year a pharmaceutical company. So that will be sort of where I am at, right? Yeah, and then I do speaking engagement as well. The same model, number of minutes. You need briefing 10 minutes? Okay, 10 minutes. You need me to arrive 10 minutes early? Then 10 minutes. You need me to stay on 20 minutes after? Then 20 minutes. How many minutes of speaking is how many minutes? So I run a single model by time. Clients can end any minute. Yeah.
Awesome. There's so much. First of all, I want to say thank you because you come all the way, although you have already hurt your knees, right? Like ligament. Okay. I think that spirit of entrepreneurship, right? As long as you can go on that step, you will fulfill your commitment. I appreciate that. I think every one of us is like finding our one way, right? There's no one right way. There's always, if it fits, yes, it will fit. So if not, then it's move on. Awesome. Now, based on the experience in the multiple companies, how has getting customer changed throughout the years?
I think the concept of customer, I think in the end is, one is we all talking about we sell to people, right? But I think we want to turn the model from we sell to people buy from you. How do you get people to buy from you versus you sell, right? If you think on it as a consumer, now take away your business hat. All of us throw away our business hat. Right? We as a consumer, do we want to have choices or do we want to have choices? Do you want to feel that we make the decision or do we want to make the decision? A lot of times we want to make a decision, we want to feel that we are in charge to choose. The same thing, your customers want that. Your customers likelihood don't want to be bombarded by sales, right? I'm quite sure many of us have those experiences where people were selling to us even though we got zero interest. I'm quite sure we have friends where you have never met them for 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. Then they say, oh, let's catch up. And then during the catch up, 2 minutes of catch up and 1 hour of selling. Right? We all have that kind of thing. We haven't gone through. And we know the experience. Right? But so I think in the end is, as you go along it, the fundamental doesn't change. I think in the end is understanding the needs of what is your target audience needs. Like, do you care about them or you don't care about them? Do you know, are you looking at making a sales or are you looking at what is their needs? And what kind of needs? And not looking at a very grand scheme, but it's a particular needs. Right? And I think that sort of help, right? For you to really nailing it and be able to say, okay, this is what it is. Okay, based on this scenario, this is what I think I can share. This is what I think relevant. And this is the pros and cons. This is the potential upside. This is the probability that it will work. This is the risk factor. Right? In the end, it's because I think in the end, as you do the business, it's a long-term business. Don't look at it as a one-off transactions. Right? So I think in the end is that the words will spread. Like I did my advisory, I have no website, no spread, no brochure, nothing, zero. 100% referral. Right? That's the only way. And I already make it very clear that I don't pay referral fee also. And I don't accept referral fee also. So because I think in the end is you go in a simple play. Doesn't mean referral fee is bad. It's just that I don't want to do that. Because I don't want to monetize any of my friends, connections. Right? If today I can take some referral fee from you, that means to sell you or buy you or whatnot, then in the end it's not genuine. So for me it's in that. But I think all of us will have a different value system. Start from your value system. Start from the clients. And if you tell customers, also think of which segment you go in. Do you prefer the longer sales cycle, larger clients? Do you prefer ad hoc one-off sales, small sales? Do you prefer a more retainer play? Do you prefer a lot of add-on, mini add-on kind of sales? Like if you look at AirAsia, right? Do they really make money from the seat? Not that much. But they made a lot from all the other things. Like one of the things that AirAsia did quite smartly is seats and baggage. Like, and it's not, you can try and check it out, right? It is not that longer flight has more expensive seats or more expensive baggage. It actually does, there's actually a lot of science behind that, a lot of analytics behind that. For business destination, seats is very expensive, baggage is cheap. For holiday destination, the family kind of trip, kind of destination, seat is cheap, baggage is very expensive. Why? If family need to carry baggage anyway to go Phuket, it's a 1 hour flight, but they carry luggage there. Luggage expensive, seat is cheap. Destination like Singapore, mostly business travelers, seat is very expensive because everyone want a front seat, so they can get on a plane fast to go for your meetings. So in the end, is do you understand that? And for AirAsia, these two things is worth few hundred million ringgit, by the way, a year, by just optimizing this simple thing. So in the end, it's like, how do you optimize? Like back then when I was Job Street, each job posting was like a kind of posting. So what I created for them back then was a standout listing, where basically there's a background color for your posting. So every posting was white, yours got a color. And then I let you bold the corner and put a logo. How much cost for Job Street to add that? It's likely 0. We charge 60 ringgit. So our margin is 59 point something ringgit. Go straight to the bottom line. That one product create them 20 million ringgit profit. This was 2011. Single product, 20 million profit before tax. Simple play. So in the end, is how do you tweak in that play? As you create, do you understand your segment? Do you see what they need? And later we can basically take examples and whatnot, right? To see what kind of play. Let's say like Foodie. Do you want Pin Yang to be there to be the host or not? The pricing is very different. What are the areas that you want and what areas that you don't want?
Awesome. I think it's about solving problems, basically unlocking, right, whatever value that you have by actually finding what a problem that you can actually solve for your customer, rather than looking on how much actually I can make from this deal, more on a long-term basis as well. And what are the actually main differences between Fave, Foodie, your current company, especially in terms of customer acquisition?
I think each of them are different, right? So for Fave, there are 2 parts, merchants and consumer. Actually, 3 parts, merchant, consumer, and platforms. So Fave, at the tail end of when when I say Fave, I mean when I was still there. So I don't know much about the last 2 years since I left. So what I speak was Fave during my time, right? So the one key core, the main client for Fave, for a lot of people may think it's consumer, a lot of people may think that it's merchant. Technically, it's not. Fave main clients was Shell, Touch 'n Go, Singtel, DBS Bank, UOB Bank, Google Pay, Alipay. The bulk of the business is doing with these people. Today, if you use Touch 'n Go, the merchant loyalty, I say today, 2 years ago, as when I was there. They likely were still using it, but 2 years ago when I was there, Touch 'n Go merchant loyalty system was from Fave. DBS Bank, Paylah, UOB, Singtel, their merchant loyalty platform was Fave in their app. It doesn't have Fave branding, but it's in there. And that was what our core business. Like Shell, if anyone go to corporate and Shell and buy any cash voucher from Shell, I think between 2019 to 2024, I don't know whether now still happen. Basically, any B2B voucher from Shell, looks like Shell, is all done by Fave. Every single voucher, including Shell department. If Shell, their branches want to run a Shell voucher or their marketing, they still have to buy from Fave. So that was what some of the business that most people don't see, but it was that layering that basically made the money. And then there's a merchants that basically enable this and the consumer. So it's in that layering for Fave. I think for Foodie, basically, is we started from F&B, right? You build it where F&B video, or the cafes and whatnot. Started by they go on where they shoot the hawkers and eventually go to all the cafes, restaurants, everything. And I think now Foodie is way beyond food, right? I think you all know. Many brands, many of people may not realize, like real estate is homey. The car related is buddies, car buddies. Travel is travel rookie. People related is zesty. Financial is money, MONIE. And then there are more, right? So for Foodie is now today way beyond food. And eventually it's capturing that. How do, whatever they created for food, how do you create it for many other categories in terms of media standpoint? And I think one thing to note is that Foodie market cap is now about 400 million ringgit, plus minus every day. And it's actually bigger than Media Prima. Media Prima, which is TV3 and TV7, 8, 9, all the radio stations, the Berita Harian, NST, Big Three, added up is 300 plus million. The Star, I think, is 100 plus or 200 plus million. So Astro is about 500 plus. So it's slightly below Astro. But it's quite interesting. From a Facebook account back then at Pinyang. So Pinyang was, as he building the journey back then, he was earning 3,000 ringgit, this public figure that he just shared. And he wanted more money to get free food and everything. So he went to shoot video, people giving free food. Of course, he has his side reason. He was also trying to go after his wife, current wife, that time not yet girlfriend. So Foodie was where his side project to find activity with her. So they went on that, and then, so got 2 in 1, right? Get free food and get to go out on dates. And then after that, they're together. And then from there, he started charging 50 ringgit. And then he quit when he has 3,000 ringgit revenue. Then I said, okay, that pays my salary at that time, so I quit and built it down. And that's 2016 he started, 2018 he reached 3,000 ringgit revenue. And today it's a 400 million ringgit company. Right, so it's quite an interesting journey. Of course, it takes 10 years, right, 2016. So this is a 10-year as they built through the journey. A lot of hustle, a lot of play. Even though today, like the company is at that stage, he's still hustling like nobody business. His wedding was less than 2 weeks ago, Friday. At Friday late night, this was Friday night wedding dinner. Saturday 2:30 p.m. he's on his flight to Switzerland for World Economic Forum to speak there at Davos. Next day of the wedding. Not many people would do that. How many of you would do that? The day after your wedding, fly alone to Switzerland to give a talk.
Yeah, 400 million company, I think I would do that, right?
But I think his wife is very understanding. Like we were like keep on asking him and say, make sure that your wife is really okay, right? Because usually you throw her in Penang and then you went over, right? But I think it's the hustling. Like on the IPO day, I still remember we were there with him still at 12:30, 1 a.m. And then he said, I have to go home because 8 a.m. he's doing a shooting for Gamuda and Samsung. On the day morning, 8 a.m. after IPO. You know your IPO is how busy it is. But the guy is just like that. On the 11/11, right? Yeah, 11/11, the live streaming, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m., 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Right? It's a lot of hard work. He got it there. And in terms of live streaming for Foodie as well, how Pinyang built his skill sets was, when he was young, he came from a poor family. His parents sell chicken rice earlier, and then his parents sell pots and pans at the morning, pasar pagi, morning market. And every day he was there selling food and selling all these things. So that was how he learned his marketing and sales. Customer walk past, don't ignore them, no one buy, got people buy. The stall, the chicken rice got shut down because no one eat and everything. Went through all those things. Actually, he even went through, like, even as of a few years ago, his parents' medical, not enough money to pay and everything. So he went through the hardship to build through, and it lasts through. So I think a lot of time as we build it is that mission, that willingness, and the passion to build. So I think that's where the journey is.
I think if you talk about the Pinyang, right, from a solopreneur to 400 million, compared to a giants who have been there for so long, Media Prima, TV3, right? So other than just the hunger, the hard work, what other things that you think that makes such a difference? There are so many young people who actually hustle very hard as well. Within a short period, actually he can build. Is it also other factors like getting into the right industry, the timing? Any other?
Industry is the industry that you care deeply. So I think, in a way, yes. I think he also moved from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok, right? You cross channels as you built through. Went from food to beyond food and all those categories that we talked about just now. So I think there are multiple play. Going from pitching to a hawker, to a cafe, to now all the large brands and banks and everything. So there is a lot of transformation, learn, unlearn, relearn. Because as you go through, and I think he is very humble. He's always there to ask for help, sharing, and even on his IPO prospectus day, he invited pretty much every competitor in the market to be there. How many people will be on your IPO day, invite your competitors to be there? But he did. And his objective is he spoke to them on stage and say basically he wanted all of them one day to hit the IPO as well. One day he wanted them to succeed as well. And it's actually quite an interesting play, right? Because wanting to see a lot of young people succeed, right? And actually yesterday I had a coffee with one of the former intern of Penang. He interned in Penang for 9 months, from nothing. Like he was a high school student, pinged to him, and then he took him for 9 months, going through day night shooting and everything. And it's really quite interesting to see the drive and willingness to learn from the young people. And I think for that young guy that I was talking to yesterday, my advice to him was, he was asking me internship, where should he go for? So I said, find the people that you really can learn from. He got one Penang that really dedicated time to gap him. Who else as you go through, right? Or whether you want to go back there and try through. And I think one other factors that I think for Penang is that I think Brian Lu played a very important part in that journey, T-Life. I think Brian Lu spotted. And initially when Brian asked for a meeting in Penang, Penang rejected. He actually rejected. He was living in Penang, he don't really meet people. And actually, if you all saw his old photo, he was actually obese also. Right? His wife that day published his photo of Penang when he's about my size. Very different than current, but the willingness, I think that Brian Lu basically look at it, but Brian Lu doesn't give him all the ingredients. Brian Lu basically challenged and note. How I met Penang first time, back in early 2023, was also because Brian Lu gave him some names to meet, and my name fall into that list. And then he approached, he find ways, and then reached out to me. But we actually didn't really hang out. The next time that he really pinged me was the day he asked me for interview to join his board. I went for the interview. Fun fact, 2-3 minutes after the interview, into the interview, I toppled an Americano. And we actually had to change table because he was created a whole mess for the whole table.
So was that the ingredient, how you got?
No. And when he eventually offered me, because I was interviewing a director, eventually he offered me chairman role. And when he called me to tell me that, I'm like, actually I have never been director before. Let alone chairman, I have never been. But I said, if you want to, I will learn together. We'll learn hard and do our best to do it, but I have never done it. As we went to the IPO, we actually never done it. How is it? I don't know, but it just keep on asking. So like, let's say every time I got a chance to travel with some board of directors people, like last week Monday, I was traveling to Forest City Network School with the Tunku Ali Zakri, former EPF CEO, former MEFCAP and Penjara Capital Chairman, and also Tan Sri Syaril Rizza, former EPF CEO, former Khazanah MD, current Axiata and Paradigm Chairman. And it's quite interesting, right? It's like talking to these two industry giants. And I think for me, I basically just ask them a lot of questions on how to be I'm a noob, like beginner as a director. How do I learn from these people? So I think it's just constantly learning. So I think whatever you try to do, you just constantly ask. Worst case, what people do? People say no time to help you. Worst case, people don't give you a lot of advice and whatnot. But another thing is, as you get advice, one thing key is no one knows you as much as you do. No one knows whether the advice really will fit you. Take the advice, think through, make sense or not. Think, if it not make sense, is there other adaptability? Make sense to tweak. But don't take it lock, stock, barrel as well. Because let's say today, whatever I say here, anything that I said, maybe for 20% of people, maybe, okay, this makes sense. For 20%, it completely doesn't make sense. And for the rest, maybe it's in between. Right? And especially in this kind of audience where it's larger, it will always have that. So in the end, pick the relevant one, and whatever doesn't matter, think and say, no, that's not relevant. And even you ask people, let's say fundraising, if some of you eventually go on fundraising, you go and pitch to investors, every investor will give you different advice. After 5 investors, you go back to what this investor tell you not do, that person will tell you do. In the end, it's preference. There's a lot of style. If you look at it, even how people build, Grab, Anthony Tan, the C Group, Shopee, Forrest Lee, their personality are opposite. ByteDance TikTok, the founder. ByteDance founder and Forrest, Shopee, they are introverts. I was in Macau with the ByteDance founder because we shared the same investor, SIG. He was just sitting in one corner. He didn't really talk. He's introvert. Forrest Lee, Shopee. I met him because his then girlfriend was my classmate. We met up for dinner. Then she said, can I bring my +1? So that was Forrest. Right, and I still remember he told me he was running Garena. There were 50 people. I said, oh, what does Garena do? I didn't play games, right, so I don't know anything. And eventually, this guy built to the empire. Anthony Tan in a very, very different style. They all built it through. A lot of smartness, a lot of hardworking, a lot of dedication, but the style is different. You want to build in your own mold, not another person's mold. Because anything that the style that if you don't feel fully comfortable, you don't fully feel at ease, you don't fully feel convinced, don't do it. Because we all operate. Some people are, let's say like Joe O'Neill, when I worked with him for 13 years, right? Joe can take as much risk and he can fall asleep like nothing happened. It's no problem, right? He needs a lot of risk, he needs a lot of uncertainty, he loves uncertainty, right? I can't. And we all just need to adapt along accordingly because we all operate in a different way. Some of us say, okay lah, let's go holiday. Like, don't plan anything, we just go there and see. Some of us say, I need you to know, okay, 4 weeks from holiday, I need to know 10 o'clock what I do, 2 p.m. what I do, 4 p.m. what I do, where to go, how is it, everything. I need to know every details. Then I'm comfortable. Which is better? No right or wrong. We just need to adapt, right? I think in that sense.
Okay. Awesome, actually. Because I think in any partnership or even in family members, having different personality, you always see a lot of clash, especially in opinions, right? So when have such a big, rich attitude, right? And you are a bit much more, I would say, ground level, right? How do you actually adapt to that? Do you?
Yeah, so I think in the end is each plays the game, right? So I think like let's say Joel and me, many of you know Joe O'Neill, right? So y'all can see, right? He's the charming guy. He knows how to talk. He knows how to sell anything to anyone, right? He can sell ice to Eskimo, right? So he has that charm and that vision. He sees very far, and he's very comfortable with a lot of risks. And I play on the other end, right? I'm looking at the micro details. I am this boring person that go through these numbers. I think in numbers, right? I think in calendar. Like let's say we go for a candidate interview, I don't need to ask him whether if he interviews someone, I don't need to ask him what's the outcome. If he interview a person, he think the person is great, that's going to be a 2, 3, 4, 5 hours interview. If you think the person is bad, it's also will be 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. At 2, 3, 4 minutes, he thinks that doesn't, he will end the meeting because he doesn't want to waste both people's time. For me, I'm like, okay, 30 minutes meeting or 1 hour meeting, I will feel bad like, oh, the person came, I talked to the person 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, let me at least spend 25 minutes with the person, right, or something. So there's no right or wrong. Let's say meetings. The way he run meetings is, like let's say for me, is this meeting scheduled for 1 hour, I will try to end in 1 hour. Or rather, I really, really wanted it to end in 1 hour or 60 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. I run by agenda. Like Foodie first board meeting, 2.5 hours, I run in and end at exactly 2 hours, 30 minutes. Right, so that's how I operate in a structured, in that way for those things, right? For those meetings. I'm okay when I go travel or whatever, but in that sense it's there, right? Joe's meeting is like, okay, he feels that there's something more important, he will continue running. So for him, it's very objective driven. I think this is the most important thing. If it takes 8 hours, means 8 hours lah. Everything else doesn't matter. So he's very objective driven. Let's say if Joe come to this event, he will already know who is the 2, 3 people he want to meet. He will talk to the 2, 3 people, he will leave. That's his standard model. He knows what he wants, he go for it, once done, it's up. Time is precious. Like speaking at the events, Joe usually speak at a few thousand people event. He is very clear. He will be very clear who is the co-panelist. The co-panelist is not more senior than him, chances are he will not agree. It's positioning, style. Doesn't mean he's arrogant, he's just his way. Right? As you have limited time, you have all these things, well, how do you do? Whereas for me, it's okay. Does it fit my calendar? Does it, why not, right? Then I'm like, okay, can I do that, right? So a lot of it is that. But I also have the cons because my calendar is constantly filled up because I'm like constantly yes. Then I'm like my whole calendar list of things. Like Joe protects his time very well. So he rarely say yes. So depends on how you play. And I think as you go out there and play your game is how do you do it? And I think in terms of the different personality in there is the trust. Like Joe is actually much better problem solver than me. So a lot of time when we have tension and everything, he is actually much better at standing up and say, okay, let's how this we solve. I can't remember how many times that we spend 3, 4, 5, 6 hours sucking in carbon monoxide in the car and debate. Too many times, right? And let's say, example, the word loyalty, trust, right? The word trust in me and how he look at it is also very different. I look at trust as black and white. I trust you, I don't trust you. Joel is like, I trust you on A, but I don't trust you on B. Right? You call me money, but you are still quite a fun person. Okay, I don't deal money with you, but I can still play basketball with you. So he can do that. For me, like, if you call me money, I'm not going to see you, right? Right? So it's that. So it depends on the principle and style. How do we operate? And I think if you talk about extrovert, introvert, and whatever, introvert, ambivert, and all that kind of thing, right? Each of that is different again. How do you look at it and where do you play? Because each personality is different. And I was talking to David Lai recently, Enneagram. You all know Enneagram? I only knew this few days ago. And then one thing that David Lai was showing me was just type into your ChatGPT. If you use ChatGPT a lot, just type in ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT, tell you what's your Enneagram. ENNEAGRAM. And it actually give you a very good analysis. And my one is 5W6. So then it's like, it's all the things that going in, and it's actually quite an interesting realm, right? I mean, it was a very simple question to ChatGPT, what is my Enneagram? And then he gave me a long, long answer. And I think David Lai was like, okay, how do he deal with me? And he actually, David Lai, the magician, illustrate. So he was just like showing it. So a lot of times you never know. All these things are tied through, right?
So to work together, each other need to respect and have that trust, right?
And maybe a method to solve, right? So let's say I know couples that were also co-founders. One of the way they do is they end with a hug. Or back then for Fave, we have this 8 hour of questions, 24 hours of conflict. Basically, if any conflict, we only have 24 hours to solve. After 24 hours, you cannot bring up and say, oh, last week you did this. That's no longer valid. You have only 24 hours to bring up. There's no, anything past 24 hours is no longer valid to bring up because you don't want that, oh, last year you did this to me, last week you did this, and whatever, right? Those are all irrelevant. So you have 24 hours to solve. And back then, in Fave, we actually had a conflict corner. So we actually create a wall and say conflict, you go there, and two person will do this. Each of you take this, and then you do it, and then you solve it there. So you gamify it. Yeah, I think there's no right or wrong style, but I think in the end is that. And also, as you build this, don't try to build identical. Identical is actually quite bad. And I think one of the things that, like last week I just mentioned, I went to network school. You heard of network school? Yeah, how many of you have visited network school?
No.
Yeah, actually, it's actually quite an interesting one. It is a very great place if you are trying to build a venture. So it's $1,005 for twin sharing a month, $3,000 for single room. Basically, all expenses included. You got a hotel room to stay. You get food that designed by Brian Johnson. So every meal is super healthy cafe food, right? Like the omelette inside is all veggie kind of thing, right? So you look at it, it's like all healthy ingredient kind of food, right? You want all and all that kind of thing, it doesn't work there, right? And it's actually quite a very healthy every meal. And they basically calorie plan, 2,250 calories. Every food that you eat, you know how many calories, how many protein, carbs, fat, and everything. So the reason that they do it is quite interesting. Is take away all the thinking about food. You are 2250, just go to the rack, take 2250 food and eat, and don't think. And then fitness, 7 a.m., 11 a.m., 3 p.m. And then the 24-hour gym, their gym is maybe 10 times or 20 times this room. Super huge. And I go there and do talks like this, right? But the one thing they need me to do before the talk is did a 16-minute exercise that I was dead. Right? They made me do HIIT.
Wow. So it's more like a fitness, right? It sounds like more of a detox fitness retreat.
But and there are 250 people living there now. Next month will be 300. There are less than 10 Malaysians. A lot of people from US, India, Europe, China, and everywhere. And everyone is trying to build a venture. So it's actually quite a You can check it out if you are, I think it works for people that you know, okay, you want a very environment where to really focus and build. You still need to spend a lot more internal time and browsing, brainstorming. Of course, if you're already running, you need to see a lot of clients and kind of thing. That place may not be the best. You got a team and you're working with, that may not be the best. But I think for those that inflection point, that is actually quite a good one. This is not a paid endorsement, I think it's just that observation as I went there.
Would you recommend like how long a period?
I say test because they only allow 1 month minimum. So test with 1 month. You like it, you can continue. I mean, for Malaysian, 1,005 US, 6,000 ringgit. Now, okay, now slightly less than 6,000 with ringgit at 3.92. It's somewhat on the higher side, but if you think on it, how much you spend a month on accommodation, food. Imagine that every cafe food and all the coffee that you had, Americano, espresso, and then all the fitness, personal instructor. The personal instructor is crazy brutal. Huh? He is the personal instructor of New Zealand military. I'm like, 4-5 days of pain after 16 minutes. Technically, because dream of 3, so technically I do 5 minutes of work, and I'm dead. So it's quite, and then you can do a sauna, ice bath, and then every day got 5-10 of such talks. You be a speaker and you also listening.
So it's actually not restricted to technical tech?
Any kind.
Any kind of business?
Like there's one guy, he was 6th generation French cognac. Is it called cognac? C-O-G-N-A-C. Yeah, so his family was a Camus, C-A-M-U-S, is it? Quite a famous cognac. 6th generation, the business is declining, so he went there to discover himself.
Wow. Awesome. Thank
a
you
lot of
so
global
much.
speakers, right? So from Palante to the Vitalik, the Ethereum, they all have been gone there.
Thanks so much. We're sure going to check it out. You're someone who is very tactical and into numbers. What are the key figures or numbers or metrics that you can actually recommend to measure?
I think it's really understand your business. What do you need to move needles, right? And I think in the end is, depend on your numerical field as well. Some people are very numerical, some people are not, right? If let's say you are not, then maybe it's a few key figures. If you are deeply numerical like me, back then for Fave, every hour I got 200 metrics coming to me. Every hour I will auto report, basically midnight to this hour, to, let's say midnight now is to 3 p.m., midnight to 3 p.m., all the reports will come in 200 metrics. And then I will analyze. So what I see is always today versus yesterday versus last week, same day. So today versus yesterday versus last Wednesday in that case. And in all the 200 metrics, I will take a scan look. I will just scroll. As I walk to washroom, I will scroll. Then I will know something and then I will move. And then I think that's how I work. Doesn't mean that's what you should work. I don't look at graph. I look at table. Right? In the end, is you want to know what works well for you. How do you think? Do you like a lot of anecdotes? Like a lot of customer review stories? Do you like a lot of this data play? Do you like big picture? Do you love to deep dive? What is play to your strength? I think as you build this, so I think one thing as you build, how many, most of you are building your own ventures, right? How many of you are running your own business? Okay, so as you build a business, the last thing you want is you become slave to your own business. The last thing you want is you have no say in your own business. Then you may as well go work for others and get salary every month. Right? If you think in a brutal way, right? So a lot of times we're like, oh, let's follow this thing, let's follow this thing, let's try this thing, let's copy or not going to say copy or learn or whatever. And in the end, we do things that we actually don't like to do. And then after a while, we incorporate everything, we hated the work we do. Then why do we build our own? Right? So I would say that as you go along, you want to pick the style that you really believe in and then drive towards it. Start from the core. What matters to you? What really things that you want to make it happen? And then drive towards that. And run from that fundamental. Like first principle, make it easier, cheaper, better, faster, more secure. Run on a basic fundamental and then drive through. You need a lot of numbers, go a lot of numbers. If you don't like numbers, don't see numbers.
Okay. So what are one of the biggest mistakes that actually seems to repeat itself in many companies that you would advise?
I mean, lots of mistakes in the end. I think in the end is that the other one is actually penny wise, pound foolish. You spend a lot of time, let's say marketing, digital marketing or whatever, right? There are a lot of people that spend a lot of time trying optimizing on the marketing spend, but the marketing spend is so little. Your time is likely more expensive. Because a lot of founders, as you build, right, you pay yourself zero, or you pay yourself last. Whatever you get, you pay yourself. So you count your time as free. But let's say, example, you spend 1,000 ringgit on marketing a month, and you spend so much time in it, your time actually got cost, no? And your cost likely is more than that 1,000. It may not make sense to optimize 1,000 ringgit.
Do you kind of like allocate a certain percentage of your revenue for marketing purposes?
It really depends. Because I think it varies by business, it varies by style. Also, right, certain business require more marketing. And what's the marketing, right? I won't say that is, I don't, and I think that I was recently on LinkedIn and someone was just feedback and share, right? Because a lot of time when we go on framework, when we go on a simple plug-in formula, a lot of times we are oversimplifying. A lot of times we are not understanding the assumptions. A lot of times we are basically taking it and plug in, and in the end it doesn't actually fit. So it's, for certain business, maybe okay to spend 25% of gross profit for marketing. Or maybe certain business is okay to spend 50%. But certain business maybe it's only 2%. It actually varies quite a lot. Let's say even for Fave. Back then when we built Fave, or previously Groupon, both are run on very different play. Groupon margin is 20-30%. Everything we sell 20-30%. Fave, the margin is 0 point something %. So both, you can't play the same game because what you have is actually very different. And when you play B2B to C, B2B, B2C, and what kind of B2B as well? Is it large corporates, individual decision maker? Who are the decision makers there? Or even for back then, like let's say example, I want to market to the business owner that runs small shop, cafe, single owner, or chain are very different. The approach to reach them is actually completely different. And I think a lot of it is understanding the nuances. And I think don't just go out there and copy. Oh, that person done it, I hear it, oh, CC said so, let me go do it. Don't, please don't. Right? I think in the end is you go through and think through, does it make sense? Does it make sense? How do it make sense to you? If it don't make sense to you fully, don't do. Right? It's actually quite dangerous. And the other one is also chasing the investor, right? You go meet investor A, investor say, oh, change your model to this. Then you meet investor B, you say, change again. Then C, change again. Then after you meet 10 of them, you change 9 times already. Then none of them works because you are constantly in that play. And actually the other one, the topic that I brought out recently on my LinkedIn is how much risk you should take. Too much risk is bad, but too little risk is also bad. At this juncture of your individual or company, how much risk your company or you can take or should take at this juncture? Right? It's an honest evaluation that you go through. This year, as your business built to this point, can or should you take more risk? Or this year, based on the circumstances you are in, you're going to be a lot more defensive. It's not a formula and plug, but it's a lot of that honest questions asking yourself and say, this year, do I have a lot of commitment and I need to take care? This year, do I have other priorities I need to take care? This year, am I on an uptrend or am I on a downtrend? If I'm growing a lot already, do you think that there's a lot more room to scale, or do I need to be a bit more defensive already? If I'm declining, slow decline, are we just slow down and decline, or are we need to find something to break through? How do we do it, right? Do I have the talent to take risks? Do I have the capability? If I take more risk, can I sleep well at night? How far am I from bankruptcy, whether for the business or individual? Right? How much money the company can take? And each of these perspectives will come into the play, right, to answer that question. And in the end, it's like, okay, based on this evaluation, I think is there. And it should not be a decision to just outsource. You shouldn't just find a consultant and consultant tell you that. Because no consultant will know you anywhere near you. In the end, it's something that you need to believe in. And I think that's what you need to do.
Awesome. Fave actually raised a lot of money. So many startups actually want to fundraise. And what are your thoughts on fundraising for customer acquisition?
Yeah, I think those days are over. So I think if you look at it from the investor standpoint, Southeast Asia VC, almost no VC has made money. I personally have invested a bunch of startups. After 12 years of investing, my DPI, distribution per invested capital, is 0.25. Means after 12 years, I got back 25% of my capital. I have stopped investing for the last 18 months, and I don't foresee me investing. I think in this exact room, Dr. Sivapalan was speaking. And he also stopped investing. He has done 50 overdeals. And I think that today I would say that is bootstrapping, responsible in fundraising, if there is, and in the end is drive-through. Because in the end, I think but when this funding winter came, it's actually good news as well. Because back then, while you can raise 2 million, someone else can raise 5 million. Someone else can raise 5 million, you can raise 10 million, 20 million. So it's just constantly everyone throw who has more money. It play a very different game. While you have more money, your competitors have a lot more money. Now when you have less capital from others to play, others also have less capital. And I think a lot of times you think through deeper. Is this the right way to spend? And even if you're able to raise, I would encourage everyone to think of those investor money as your own money. Would you spend it the way if it is your own money? And the more you raise, the harder you sell. Yes, Fave, we sold 45 million, but we raised more than 40 million US dollar investor money. That's why our eventual exit was poor, very poor, right? If we had only raised $2 million and sold at 45, it would be a very great deal. Right? I can't turn back the clock, but that was what it is, reality. Right? So I think a lot of it is that also. Right? Like back then we were like, oh, trophy, I raised 4 million. Okay, let me have a better news, 8 million, great news. Right? And all those kind of things. But over time, you would realize that, and I think today, how do you build a sustainable play? And I think Malaysia now, with the IPO market, is very different. Like Foodie, they have raised a total of 160,000 ringgit to build a 400 million ringgit company. Right? It's a 2,500 times return on capital. Grab, I think their market cap is about 18 or 19 billion US dollar now, 18 billion. They raised 16.5 B. So it's a 1.1x return after 13 years. Similar like Fave, 40 to 45, 1.1x. Right? And this is considered okay. People think like, oh, this company I got there. Right? And there are a lot is all negative, right? So that's the challenge. And I hope you all don't mind, right? I'm just pointing out, I speak whatever in my mind because I think that in the end, I don't need to go and sugarcoat, right, in this kind of audience, is that in the end, it's reality. It doesn't mean that can't build, but in the end is, if building a journey startup, I think is the fun part is the process and the journey building it, the people that you go through, the culture, you get to set a path, you get to try different things. Those are the things that I would say, cherish and can't replace through. If you say financial, I count back. If I had 2014, I don't build any startup, I likely today financially I'm much better off. Right? And this is with an exit. This is with an exit. Right? With no exit, it's even worse, right? If you think on it. Right? And if you just take 2014 salary, just multiply and no increment, no promotion. And we have tested with a lot of founders. Most of them, it feels that way. Before you start, just take the salary. No need to grow anymore. And it's that. But I think that the learning is different. If I continue on the corporate world in that sense, my learning is different. Of course, just now in the corporate world, I'm assuming I didn't get retrenched, right? Today, corporate has a lot of retrenchment also. Right? So it doesn't mean that whatever my old salary will continue for 12 years or so, right? There are different problems there to face. But I think in the end is that if you have money, that's not the easiest. You want free time. Mark Chang, Job Street. He wanted free time when he started Job Street. He got it almost 20 years later. And then people say overnight success. Right? So it's a journey. Like I say for Fave, it feels short, but it's 9 years. It's not like, oh, wake up and think of 9 years of morning till night every day. Those kind of life. And actually, what I cherish as I left that journey now is that when I meet people for dinner or lunch or coffee, I can put my phone around and don't look at it. Like my phone is here. During this whole panel session, I have not looked at phone. If you had seen me back then when I was still doing Fave, every 5-10 minutes, every time I put down my phone when Arthur speaks, I'm on my phone checking whether reply to message. That was what I was all the while. Now I can actually put it down and say, okay, every 1 hour, 2 hours, I can let it be and then look at it later. And I think that's the part and play, right? Yeah. Like I now get to do a lot more sports and getting more injury. This time right leg, last time left leg. Last time luckily got 2 weeks crutches. So, but it's a fun, different play.
So looking back right now, if you were to relive that life, right? in such a tough market situation, so much dynamic have changed, and the fundraising is so tough. So you need to be very resilient as an entrepreneur. Any other way that you would do differently?
I think that is definitely spent very differently, type of people that you hire differently, and I think it's very objective driven, right? In terms of like what we play, how we play, and let's say right now I run my own solo venture. It is bootstrap, it is run that way, right? So, and I think even though when you look at fundraising play, like Foodie Pinyang has built it in there. He only spent 160,000 ringgit total, grand total over 9 years, right? So of course, I think first 2 years he has zero salary and he was underpaying himself for a long, long time, right? But that is where it is. But I think that each of that requires us to learn and think differently, see different perspective. But I think the opportunity is there, right? If you look at it today, today's world, people are a lot more connected digitally. Today, with AI, you can save a lot of costs. Of course, you have a lot more opportunity, you also have a lot of threats. A key play question will be, would AI disrupt everything that you do? And as it is today as a user, it is basically solving a lot of my thing. Like tomorrow I got a panel that I need to moderate, be like moderator, and I'm a very lazy person, right? To prepare, you're hardworking, prepare a bunch of questions, right? So yesterday I was just spending 4 minutes with ChatGPT while at traffic lights, asking questions to ChatGPT. It formulated everything for me already. Then I copy paste send to all the panelists. I hope none of them realize it's ChatGPT lah. But it is what it is lah, right? It's a few minutes kind of thing. Before that, you will likelihood have, because tomorrow the topic I'm moderating will be corporate versus startups. So I got 2 corporate folks and 2 startup folks. And play, right? And I think a lot of things is that using ChatGPT, Gemini, generative AI, whatever it is, but I think the other one is put your brain in it. Don't just lock, stock, barrel. And why 4 minutes versus 30 seconds? Because I need to actually scold my ChatGPT a bit and say feedback this thing to fine tune. But it learns a lot, right? Let's say food. Now when I take a plate of food, I just take a photo, I send in. It knows exactly the format I want to see the output. It will actually tell me exactly how, because each time it doesn't, I will basically reprimand my ChatGPT. So it already know exactly to prepare. So I just send a photo, no instruction, it will basically do it already. It's actually very smart.
So for Malaysian entrepreneurs, what do you think it takes to succeed? And any noticeable difference between Malaysian and other countries?
No difference, right? In the end, it's just like, I think the world is borderless. I think in the end is, do you understand your customer? Do you care about your customer? Do you help them solve their problems? Do you help them get through what they want to their dreams? I think solve problems or achieve their dreams. If you help them cut costs or earn more, the things will be there. I think in the end is that it's fundamental, and don't do shortcut. I have seen too many founders that always want a shortcut, quick way. A lot of time there isn't. And I think in the end is enjoy the journey, not the destination. Because a lot of times it's like, oh, I want to be that success. I want this thing, that thing. And I think the other one is ask yourself why you started this in the first place. Are you building this to sell? If it is, it's okay, but you know what it is. I'm building this, next few years I'm going to sell. I'm building this for IPO listing. I'm building this so that it's earning a good dividend across. I'm building this to hand over my next generation. I'm building this is as a social enterprise, make enough but create goods. I built this as what? No right or wrong, but be very clear. Actually, those of you who have co-founders or key senior people, I will encourage you all to do this exercise. Don't discuss, each take out a paper pen or each use your notepad or whatever. Ask yourself to write your vision, mission, core values without discussing. Let's say 3 of you are co-founders, don't discuss. Write your vision, mission, core values, and see whether you each come up with the same answer.
If it's different, fire them.
No, I think a lot of times likelihood is different. I've done this many times with the founders. They all say they know each other, everything. They work with each other for 3 years, or they're very aligned. Because people come and pitch to me, right? I'll do this exercise. I mean, of course, I no longer evaluate funding, right? But back then, when I do this, I'll throw this question for people to think. And a lot of times, they are not aligned one. Right? So, and a lot of times is, I mean, this is just one question, but a lot of times, like let's say recently, one founder was asking me for help. There were 5 of them. Let's say the 5 key management here. Then they got 4 projects that they want me to help them feedback on where should they focus. So what I did was actually say, okay, now you all presented all this thing. So now 5 of you, quietly, each of you pick as your first choice and last choice. And you see that they all pick very different choices among themselves. All right? They all work in the same team. But in the end is that solo time thinking, reflecting is actually super important. Actually, individually as well. The other one I think time hack that you want to do is each week, count how many % of time you spend on what. Let's say for purely work, right? How many % of time you spend on which part of the work, and what is the value creation based on 100% of value creation, 100% of time spent. And you might find that certain things you spend a lot of time, actually value creation is very little. There are certain things that you spend very little time, the value creation is very big. And a simple thing to do is just that those that spend a lot of time, low value, you cut down. Things that low value of time, high value creation, increase. Just swap the time. If you constantly do this for several period of time, you should be okay.
So it's doing a bit of a daily journal, right? Or hourly journal.
Depends on how each person. Some people love journal, some people hate journal. Some can't get the habit, right?
Okay. So now looking at 2026, what would you advise or what do you predict or see that serve as key insights or opportunities for all of us?
I think the world geopolitics is moving, as we all know. Depending on whether that plays a positive or negative to each of folks. I think that's perhaps one. I think AI will continue to get matured more and more. But AI, one of the things is, any pitch deck, if you go pitch to people, if you put the word AI, make sure you really know what is AI and really good at it. There are too many people just take whatever old deck and put the AI and then pitch as AI. Ask yourself, whatever that you put as AI, 5 years ago, is it possible? Because in 5 years ago, no one talked about the word AI. Right? So let's say example, Grab, matching driver to passenger. Technically, there's a lot of AI there. But Grab didn't even talk about AI, and that was exist since 10 years ago. If your AI is not even smarter than that, your AI is just a logic-based, or if else put it in, that's not AI. So for a lot of the people that go to pitch to people, if you claim it's AI and it's not AI, you basically get shut off already. So I think be very clear. I think as you build on this journey, I think 2026, no different from another year, right? We are almost 1 month off. I think in the end, it's just every day, 1% better every day, and incrementally build through, one customer at a time, and then build through. You build it the way whether you want incremental or you want pivoting through. But I think in the end, just be yourself. Don't let the year change. Today, if you don't look at your phone, you don't hear the environment, you actually don't know the year change. Does the world outside, you stand on December 31st and January 1st, does the world look different? Does whatever news that you read out there, you don't read any of it, does it look different? Maybe COVID time got lah, but other than that, it's no different, right? So I think in the end, it's actually not that much different. And I think the build through, take care of your health, and then go for it.
Just a question, anyone here from China? No one, just a question. Now there's a lot of China investment coming in, businesses, right? How do you see that on the positive side or concerned?
Yeah, so I think in the end is who is better at utilizing capitals? Who is able to understand the market? If China business people understand our market better than us, who is to blame? We ourselves, right? The question is, if they can understand our customer better than us, I think capital-wise, they got more money. I mean, that one is clear. But capital without understanding customer will not work. But if they are good enough to understand customers, then we got no edge. We have ourselves to blame. And working with them, sometimes it's pretty fast. Like we work with Alipay. I still remember back then for Fave, we ping Alipay. This was 2017. From the moment that we make the first phone call to Alipay, till agreement signed, press release to Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and all the China major newspaper, the 50-page integration plan and operation plan done. How long do you think from the first call to all this thing done? 6 days. It's 6 days. How long does you think typically done in this part in our country? 6 days sometimes is how long you get an appointment, no? Right? Sometimes you can't get an appointment next week, no? Right? But if you think on it, 6 days is how long it takes for these people to get the whole thing done at their size. I'm talking Alipay. And that's where it is. If you think about China, in the end is, we can say whatever it is. Are we good enough? But I think let's go there and learn. Back then, Fave, we actually went to China to learn. Like, before we started, we created Fave Pay, we actually went and LinkedIn messaged 120 people in China. And LinkedIn is not that popular, but the senior level generally got LinkedIn. We ping 120 people, we got 30 meetings. We went there and tell them that we will tell you 45 minutes about Southeast Asia, you tell us 15 minutes about China. So 30 times 15, we got 450 minutes of brain learning of China. And that was how we came back and created Fave Pay. Actually, this weekend, I'm going back to China for one of the company I'm in the board, and we're actually going there to learn from China as well. Right? It is what it is. And if you think China is great, or wherever it is, like back then, Fave, we'll go India to learn, US or whatever. If you think whichever market is good, go there and spend some time. Spend few days, few weeks, but not there just like a holiday, but really go and observe. Like let's say back then for Fave, what I like to do is always sit near the cashier and then observe how customer and the cashier interact without them knowing who am I. Because that teaches a lot of things about that. And even let's say today you create an app or anything, don't go and tell people how your app works. Just pass your phone to the person and say, and observe them how they use it. Or you have a product or services, let people use it and you see. Do people understand? We may think what we design is the easiest to understand and the best. But people out there may not understand anything. Right? And that's reality. Like how many times we go open something and then we don't know what to do with it. And then what we do, we just close, delete, and then we don't bother. Right? Consumer engagement is so short, right? You talk about advertisement. We create advertisement. How many advertisements that we bother read, view? How many advertisements that we ignore? How many times have you persuaded to buy something because of something we see online? Actually, very few. Very rare. And of those that you got persuaded to buy, why? Can you create that? Because in the end, it's that. What are the elements that make it work? And I think go out there, right? I think you have a choice, and you go out there. The market will continuously be tweaking, will constantly be more and more challenging, but opportunity is also global. Like China, if you read on the global news, it's not like China is everything great. Why China people all out? Because domestic consumption is not as strong. That's why they're here. Right? And in the end is, we need to know our market better than them. If we are not, we are the one to blame.
You see, like actually in Southeast Asia, right? Malaysia is in a very strategic position. And of course, in the 13 countries or this APEC region that we've been to, you think Malaysia right now are doing well? Are we on the right path? There's a lot more that we need to do.
Yeah, I think there are a few things. We have a strategy. We are quite connected. I think what Malaysia lack is hardworkingness, hungerness.
What, 997 or 996?
We are not. If you look at someone from, take Vietnamese, you think Vietnamese are more hardworking or Malaysian? India, China, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore. Who is more hardworking? Right? Unfortunately, we are not as hardworking, me included. Right? And that's reality. Like even just now I talk about Forest, the Naval School. The people from around the world are making use of it. We are not using it. We are not hungry enough. Actually, even for founders, many of the founders, me included, Joe included, we are not building another venture. We are lazy in a way. Right? If you're strictly going to go on that play. We are not as hungry. Indonesian, Thai, Vietnamese. Indonesia has a different fraud problem, right? But if you look at the play, we are not hungry enough. And I think that good is, I think we are multilingual. We know how to adapt. We know how to work with different people of different culture, different locations. If you do a gathering of people around the world, we have a lot of languages that we can connect with people. And we can feel at ease. Indonesia, we can run a meeting in Bahasa Indonesia. We can go Hong Kong, run a meeting in Cantonese. Go Taiwan, can speak in Mindanhua, right? And go China and speak in Mandarin. You go to Southern India, you can do Tamil and that kind of thing, right? So we got multiple languages. Middle East, we can use some Arabic or Jawi, wherever, all those things, right? So we have multiple languages that we can play. But we are not hungry enough. I think that's where we're not ambitious enough. We are not really pushing through as a culture and the play. And I think, and maybe because we are comfortable. We got enough to eat. We don't feel that, right? And I think that's where, how I see it, right? And this is my opinion. Doesn't mean that's the right opinion.
I thought every day we hear people complaining the coffee price is coming out, everything is coming out, prices are going up. There's a lot of tension in that sense.
But every of this is opportunity, right?
Yeah.
I think if you think about it, right, it's a global play, right? In the end, the pricing will come to equilibrium. If you think that every shop is overpriced and the shop's owners are making too much money, what you should do? Start your own and compete against them. Because you think they're overpriced, you can run it, you run better. And then you get to the equilibrium. And I think the market will eventually get to that point in many sense. If you say rental, we said our building rental is expensive, whatever. But if you go to Jakarta and try to ask for rental and see, you go to Singapore, don't need to say. Right? Each market has that unique strength and play. And I think that cost-wise, we are still there. In a way, is how do we be able to value add? If you think on it, it's productivity. If our company is too profitable, we should get a lot of tax from the country perspective, right? So how do we do it? Do we still have a lot of subsidy? If you look at it, which country has a Southeast Asia cheapest petrol other than Brunei? It's us, by far. You go to Indonesia, Vietnam, and don't look at Singapore, right? Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam. Go to cafe and eat there. The price is not like cheaper than here. It's not. And I think that's where we just sort of need to adapt to and then run through. And there's still a lot of cheap places around, right? I have sometimes done random cuti Malaysia, just drive my car to some random small town. There's still a lot of places with very low price point. It's just that if you go to the touristy or you go to those expensive rental, because a lot of time we go to the malls and eat, where the price has to be that price because the rental is as such.
Is there any bubbles that you see coming soon?
I think there will be always up, down in that sense. But the AI funding, I think there will be a bubble. I think. Not sure whether right or wrong. Because I think there's a lot of over. Data center, I am bearish. I think that there are too much data centers being built. I speak to some of the global data center players here. It's run, they're at 5-10% capacity today. Right? It's launched, there's no clients. How much data we are using today compared to 1 year ago? We increased marginally. But we are building 10, 20, 30, 50 times. If you think back then, bubble tea, remember bubble tea? At one point, we got how many bubble tea shops? And where are they today? Most of them. Remember the glove? We built how many factories? And now the Musang King recently? I know it's not the popular voice to say that the data center will face that, but I think so. Because I think a lot of time when we see opportunities, we all go in there and we 5x, 10x, 20x, 50x the supply. The demand cannot catch up. The same thing Musang King, right? Because everyone go plant, now all come out, all the trees bear fruits. Where to eat? Who to eat? There's only that many people to eat. The same thing as glove, the same thing as bubble tea. I think data center will hit that. And actually, anytime you see something that everyone go in there, livelihood, it's time to run. And I think that's where eventually you get the equilibrium, right? The data center, total data center will be more than before. But now, I can't remember the number, but I think Johor is building 100 times or a few hundred times more than 5 years ago. It's in tens of times or hundreds of times kind of scale. Where's the demand? Like if you think on it today, from a bandwidth standpoint, most platforms are hosted under Amazon, Google, Microsoft, a few giants, you name it. Do they all build their own data center? They all build their own data center. So all those individual data center, where you go find a client? Today, a big listed company, a lot of them are, instead of getting your own data center space, they are basically paying Amazon or Microsoft or Google or someone to use it. There's no demand. Who are you selling to? Yeah, so that's my, whatever I know, right? May or may not be right, but it's not an investment advice, it's not anything, but it's just a perspective, right? You look at it where I think overvalued. Let's say pickleball. I play a lot of pickleball. I have spoken to quite a lot of folks, either from e-commerce, logistic, courts, operators, everything. As of now, the peak was last year, November. December, January were first 2 months of downtrend. And I think that's where the thing that need to see how it play as well. Evening hours slots still full, but other timing is a lot empty. Total paddle purchase has dropped. Total balls purchase has dropped. Total searches on e-commerce has dropped also. So that has started to move. And I think the key will be eventually, one of the things that I've been throwing to a few of these people to find out, I don't know whether they ever told me, was there's a drop because of the less new people coming in or the addicted people buying the equipment less. So I think that's maybe few. But pickleball, we have built to few thousand courts now.
Awesome sharing. I think I've learned so much today, so much reflection points. I think that shall wrap up what we have for today. Do you still have time for one question? Anyone have one burning question that you want to ask? Okay, awesome.
Hi, CC, right? Okay, I'm Sun. I represent Ingots. That's my company that I work for. I just want to give a comment. I do agree that, you know, whenever there is a business that is thriving, everyone wants to take a piece of that business, especially in Malaysia. If I draw nasi lemak and the nasi lemak business is good, the next day you'll see 2-3 more stalls besides me that's opening. I do agree. And unfortunately, we Malaysians do tend to go all in one particular business or industry that is doing well, and in this case would be data centers for now, and that's partly also because of government initiatives and policies. But the questions that I wanted to ask is, what exactly that drives us, particularly in Malaysia, that we are so tunnel vision into that? Is it because of lack of creativity, or is it because of other issues? That one, is it culturally that we are that way, we think that way? This is one. Second thing is this isolated to Malaysia, or this is global phenomena? And thirdly is, how do we work out of this kind of issue or phenomena here?
I think it's beyond Malaysia. I mean, like, it's just at different extent and different depth, right? I don't know enough about other countries, but I'm quite sure there are. And I think a lot of it is that how deep we want to, because a lot of time people want to grow, want opportunity, and a lot of people ask, what's the trend? But anything that got published as a trend, there's more people going in. But again, it's subjective. If you think that what anyone say, let's say data center, and because it is an uneven information world, if you know enough and you feel that there's still an area to go in, maybe, right? Because a lot of times it's like people go general, go in that play, right? And then it all hit in this way where you don't have enough of it. But I think a lot of it is that go where you think they can, and then you create. But let's say co-working space. At one point, everyone was opening. And now we have work and colony. And then got collapse a couple of this there, right? But it's where two main and then a couple of next level. So you get to a certain maturity. And everything will eventually get to that kind of play. Like malls, we got how many malls here? As of now, it's still, a lot of big malls are still doing well. There are some malls that are more empty, like here, right? But eventually, there's also opportunity. If you think that you can bring customer to the mall, like DIY, what DIY did, if you see a lot of the building that have no one, there's a DIY there. Because they can get very favorable terms. Let's say today, if I want to open a shop, if I'm confident to bring in my own customer, Glow could be a good one. Because today is cheap, no one is here. right? When no one is there, when everything is down. Let's say, example, pickleball court. As more and more people cannot afford the pickleball court they have built, you might be able to get it cheap. It's opportunity. Data center or glove. Today you go out there, you got some money, you think the glove will come back. The manufacturing plants that are built, you might be able to buy it cheaper. So it's actually opportunity in a sense. It's just that you will go through that cycle, right? At what point, and who has unfair advantage to run? Right? Tea life is still there with bubble tea. Right? A certain segment, a certain play. Most bubble tea shop has gone. You will talk about kopitiam, right? Oriental Kopi is able to build through. Hockey is built through to some point, right? And whatnot, right? So why the certain things? Or malls. Sunway Square and Hexstar was launching at the same time, right? But Sunway Square is able to fill up from day one. Why? How? So I think a lot of it is that nuances, and I think as we go out there is, what can you do differently? Right? Let's say, you know, all this event, right? You talk about this event. There are many people organizing event. Why this event has a good audience versus other events? Right? Everyone can organize events. But a lot of time it's not as simple as, okay, just get a venue. Right? What are the nuances? What do people feel? Today you've been to 50 events in a year or 5 years. Which event gives you the best feel? You think is the best ROI? In the end is that, if you think about it, right? And in the end is, but even then, whatever trend or whatever people say, let's say data center, if you really believe strongly in it, just go for it, like if you think on it. In many sense of it, right? Because there is always different people will see at a different lens. Let's say Forest City. Why Network School go to Forest City? Because the place was empty. They like to get it that cheap. Right? They want to run this kind of camp, and there is this place where there are maybe 20 blocks built ready and left empty. But it means not just for them. Technically, today there are 10, 20 blocks of building that's built ready, almost no human being. It's at Forest City. If you know how to use those buildings in a way, build your audience in, build your demand, you likely can get it that cheap. Right? Because it's that, let's say back then when we do marketing, I go back to marketing since the topic today, right? When Fave, we back then bought Groupon, and I wanted to advertise Groupon is now Fave in Singapore. The MRT, most people do MRT wrapping, the whole wrap, or the doors and everything, the billboards, everything. So I found that back then Singapore is still using analog. The train is arriving in 2 minutes, the analog wording running one. So I actually went to MRT and asked them, hey, can I do the wording? The train is arriving in 2 minutes, Groupon is now Fave. What is the cost to MRT to add that word inside? Zero. I can't remember I offered them. I think I offered them 7,000 or whatever sing lah. It's free money, it got zero cost, zero printing, zero everything. Today just key in there, it's all there. But my cost of that announcement that is placed on every train announcement in entire Singapore for 1 month is cheaper than one board. Cheaper than one board of this door size in one station. But I got it on an entire island. Every station. Because that has zero cost to them. Right? No one look at it. So in the end is you want to find opportunity, like let's say Speed Home. Back then, he wanted to buy billboard. He bought billboard one day after GE 2018. That time Najib's face was everywhere on billboards, remember? Before election. After election, the billboards were empty. Wei Ming, the founder, went to the billboard company and said, I want to rent 100 billboards for a year. He got 90% discount. Because imagine you're a billboard owner, you have already cleared all the billboard with all these things. Now you have, okay, you don't know whether you can get back the money that people put on billboards. 2, because it's all that from politics, right? Now BN lost the elections. You now have so many empty billboards, how do you get a client? Someone offered 100, but 1 year, and it is for 100 billboards. So you technically sell 1,200 billboards a month. Versus typically people buy 1 or 2. So they give you 90% discount. Or back then when I took billboards for Fave, was when MRT1 opened. On the day MRT1 opened, LRT, I didn't go and rent MRT, I go and rent LRT because LRT Kelana Jaya line and Star line, 40% of advertisers leave. That's the best chance. 40% of billboards in LRT was empty. Does LRT have less passenger on that day? No difference. But they have 40% billboards empty. Billboard empty, what revenue they get? Zero. So I cut down significantly. KLCC main station billboard on the way to the escalator down, the 12-feet billboard, I got it for 30 ringgit a day. I really tell them, you leave it empty, it's zero. Right? And then because I buy multiple billboards at different places there, Masjid Jami and everything. So in the end, you just need to see, every time when everyone run away from somewhere, opportunity. It's who can see opportunity when everyone run away. Of course, you need to have some staying power. Right? Don't do reckless too much, right? You need to know your things and say, okay, I knew I want to go in there, and especially this one, the LRT, MRT one, the total eyeball is the same. Maybe more, because now you've got a connecting MRT line, more people will interchange. But people all move, right? And hence you go in. So a lot of times, how do you spot those things and be able to tackle? Yeah.
Awesome. I hope this will be the wrap up for everything for today.